Welcome to Empirical Animal Podcast Experiment. My name is PARTCLS, and today I sit down with my friend Rudy Blu, who's a musician, a singer, and frontman of Psych-Disco band PARTCLS. We talk about his evolving relationship with music, the importance of trust in the band, and how letting go of control shaped who PARTCLS have become. Rudy also shares stories about his early influences, his family roots, and the different ways in which he likes to experience music. It's a conversation about creativity, collaboration, and committing to what you love. So let's get into it. You're to me an excellent storyteller, and you have great capacity to engage people. Given countless live shows you've played, being a frontman of a band, how would you describe your songwriter predominantly with PARTCLS?
Yes, songwriter, singer. I mean, the songwriting, it really depends on the song. It's fairly collaborative, often. We often write the music, we're just jamming.
Definitely, that's how I would read PARTCLS.
It's
definitely
pretty
a collaborative project.
Definitely. That was a choice, quite a clear choice, to make something that we all want to make, And then the songwriting is kind of, it's not secondary, but it comes second, at least, often.
So we will talk about your band and how it transformed from its previous form, Bowling Jacks.
Yeah. But
maybe first, quite straightforward piece of advice. Like, what do you think makes for a good conversation, both in terms of like participating in one but also being a listener?
Yeah.
Should I direct it maybe to kind of?
Yeah.
So specifically, this podcast for me is an experiment to expand on what I've been doing previously, which was doing documentary films. But there, I actually like the term "fly on the wall." Yeah. So I was making sure that I'm not invasive, that I blend with the environment, and that I enhance the experience for the person that I'm filming. That that they can open up, that they can be authentic without much faking. But obviously it's then I was focusing on the capacity to listen, perhaps facilitate environment which was conducive to doing an interview. But then interview, as I found out, is quite a different thing from a conversation.
Sure. What makes a good conversation? I don't know. I mean, there's something. To go back to the music quickly, there's something, it's weirdly, it's an unspoken thing that makes it, there's something in music when we're writing that is a kind of conversation. And I suppose we're all on the same page in some respects, although on the same page in different books, maybe. I don't know, it's like, we're kind of shooting for the same point in some way or other, but coming from completely different angles, I guess.
Maybe let's try to approach from a different angle then. How did you guys meet? How the band formed, and what actually facilitated the process of forming the group, and how's that all of you keep working together? Because it's six piece, right? So I think it's quite a challenging.
Well, it's taken 10 years, basically, or more, really, since the start of the previous band, Ball and Jacks, to land on this 6 that really works. It's just about finding personalities, people that you trust. That's really important. Finding a place of trust, because it's really intimate making music with people, and I've found that there are people that I know that we're really, really good together, and we can make really great music. But if you don't trust them, which I've had that a few times, there's people that I'm really good, but I don't trust. And actually I've just found in the long run, it's just better to be with people that you love and trust. And so it's taken a long time to kind of reach this. Mm-hmm. And some of the guys I've been playing with for the whole 10 years, more or less. Mm. And a lot of them I've known for that whole time, but not played with them. And it just slowly, people leave the band, we go, okay, let's try this guy. And you kind of, the trust builds through the playing as well, and to a certain extent. Yeah, it just eventually stuck, this 6. Slowly, surely, keep changing around. Not just the trust thing, but musically as well. It just works well, this relationship.
It's great, man. And what I wanted to blend in, because right now I'm adding like a very obvious music theme. And right now I'm back to playing the guitar, but essentially I got stuck ages ago when I actually was attempting to start a band and just wasn't working. And then I think that my case was that I back then cared more about having a band and having that form of interaction than about making music. So that was secondary for me. And then the band never came to happen, beyond like single rehearsal. I put it on the shelf.
Pause, yeah. I think as well there's also there's something else that maybe has helped this formation stick is there's always a tug of war between control and letting go of control, basically. And I was definitely, in some previous iterations, I really, really wanted to control it. That's not inherently bad. If you have a vision and you want to, and you think you know exactly how this thing needs to go, and so it could be quite a taskmaster. Not allowing anyone to kind of add their own sprinkle dust, sparkle dust, whatever it is. I don't think that was that bad, but I remember making a very clear decision, like about 3 or 4 years ago, I can't remember, to just let go of, just completely let go. And we went into this big recording session. The last session we did was Ball and Jacks. And this was the first time Joao, who's now the drummer, we'd ever met him. He came into the studio and we spent 2 days. And I just decided just to completely just let go and just see what happens. And it was the best 2 days we'd ever done. The stuff we did, got so much done, and this flow emerged. And so it's kind of built out from there, I suppose. The guys who've joined since have fitted into that flow. And
is it that at this point you get surprised about what's coming out from this interaction, where it's not purely executing your vision that's been
totally. That's when it became at least very apparent to me, this other form of communication that I referenced earlier. It's this very subtle, when you're all open and you're allowing it to happen, and you're all vaguely singing from the same hymn sheet, something really, really magical happens. That is kind of hard to explain, really, but it's just another type of communication, of conversation that I really like. And it's really intimate.
And do you think that growing up, maturing has to do with that? That it's
surely
like entering into different stage of life, also musically, where now you basically aim to express perhaps something different than before.
Yeah, I think so, and I think also expectations of I was always doing it. You start playing music because there's some cool, I think so, I did anyway, there's something, you found this release, this emotional release. I remember the first song I wrote when I was 10 or something. I can still remember it, and it was just about saying, why is this person being so mean? And it's wow, that's another way of expressing something or other. But then you get into fame, the idea of fame, and being a successful band. And I still want that now, but that's just, as I've got older, I don't really have that such clear expectation anymore. And I really like just doing it it's so cathartic and fun and creative, and so that's also surely part of it. Yeah, and in terms of the music, the actual music we want to make, that's always changing.
So still open, still
always fluid. Yeah, it's always, I think that's how it's got to be. Yeah, I'd always just been I just thought disco was lame, basically straight, plain and simple. And then I just had this night it just, something clicked. And I was like, oh my God, disco's amazing. And we kind of, it's influenced the band now.
Yes. So exactly, that's what I wanted to.
Well, that was, we were all together dancing, the 6 of us. This is before we decided to change the name. We were all, it was a festival we were playing at, and we were down in the woods at like a rave, basically. And we just had this moment. We were all like just there, fully in it, like kind of a slave to the DJ. And we just decided then and there, it's like, we've got to like, we just want to make people dance. And we want to make fun, dancing music. And that, for us, is like basically disco.
I mean, I think that this is a beautiful, way of kind of connecting the dots, right?
Yeah.
And tell me now rolling back to your beginnings with music, because I remember a story about your first music teacher, I believe. The person got that, you require like different approach, that you're not interested in theory,
yeah,
but jamming was the way.
Exactly.
Was the way to go. So
he was great. Yeah, Roberto. Hi, Roberto, if you're listening. He was just great. He was so cool. It was when I was about, 12 or something. I started getting guitar lessons with him. And it's exactly that. Yeah, I would just, because I wanted to sing songs, really, was all I wanted to do. And so I would just bring him my iPod and play him a song, and he would figure it out and then teach me the chords, and then I'd be there singing it, and he'd start jamming along. He was an amazing guitar player and violinist. And it just kind of emerged into this thing that we would just come and jam. I would sing a song I wanted to sing, and he would jam along, and I was, oh, that's cool. What's that? And he would teach me these little bits here and there. And so it was very quickly about, that was so fun. Not just singing. It was more fun singing in the lessons than it was singing at home on my own. I wanted to go and, like, the jamming, was what was really, really fun about it.
And how important do you think that was to actually keep you committed to music, having the kind of good relationship with the teacher, mentor, sort of?
I think really important. Because I had tried to learn the piano when I was younger and stuff. And I think I actually had a guitar teacher before that, but it hadn't stuck. It was just boring. It definitely had to be fun. I had a kind of intuition quite early on that I never wanted to study music. Because studying in music, it just felt like it would kill it. And that was I had that really, really quite young, that I didn't want to study it kind of formally.
You still had to learn.
I still had to learn, you learn, but not by like,
practice.
Through just playing, through play really, because you wanted to do it. Although I actually have just started to learn to read music, literally in this last 2 weeks.
And what was the trigger for that? What for you?
Because I really want to be able to play. I've got classical music has really come to the fore of my. I've just suddenly got it. Like, I always kind of liked it as a thing to listen to, relaxing thing. But there are just a few pieces recently that have completely blown me away. And I would just love to be able to play some nice bits on the piano. I think that would be a nice another thing to do.
Do you want to name them?
Yeah, particularly this Beethoven. It's basically Beethoven is where I'm at the moment. There's the violin concerto in D. They're not piano pieces, funnily enough, but I don't think I'm going to learn the violin. Yeah, violin concerto in D, the first movement, played by this guy called David Oistrakh, I think. Maybe you can put a link on the thing, because it's so good. Yeah. I really
I'll do it.
It's just like, you can't believe that. I can't believe that sort of someone wrote it. It just moves in this different way to pop music, which is like, I'm using it as a really, really broad, like all the music I like. Anything that's not classical music, basically, I'm calling pop music. But it just, it's so much more direct, I think, classical music. It moves more similarly to the way that I think emotions move than kind of a pop song can encapsulate. This may be just general and not true, but my feeling at the moment is that, like, a pop song kind of captures a particular mood, generally, you kind of have sad songs and happy songs, generally. But there's something in the way that classical music moves that you can be taken from like this really bliss state. You're just like floating in bliss, and then they just change one note, and suddenly you're like, you feel it moving you in this really, really something way.
So could we say that perhaps it's like more elaborate storytelling involved in it, something of that sort?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe, yeah.
Like, I know, layered, or probably similarly as you could perhaps build an album, right? With
I guess so.
Multiple tracks.
But it's quicker, it's more direct.
And obviously flows.
It's just, it's straight to the point. It's like language, I think, is just always, it's just always that kind of a step behind. It's never quite actually capturing what you're feeling. You can't ever capture this moment with words because there's just that time lag between having to kind of process the feeling and then get the words out.
Compared to music.
Compared to music.
But
yeah.
Got it.
And particularly, like, I suppose it could be true of any instrumental music. For me at the moment, just I'm finding that with classical music, and particularly Beethoven, it's kind of more true, I think, to our like emotional landscape than, at least like in the present moment. It's so vivid and direct in a way that like a pop song maybe can't. It's just a different thing, I guess. I don't know how we got there.
Well, I mean, we're riffing on the subject of music.
Yeah. It was learning piano, wasn't it? I want to learn to play piano. Kind of, I can kind of play a bit, but it would just be nice to. There's something again about when I listen to these certain pieces of music, I have the feeling that by the person playing it couldn't possibly not be present in it. There's something I don't think you could physically almost do some of the things without being there fully in the music. Whereas there's like, when I'm playing guitar, I'm so comfortable on the guitar, I can kind of, it's great. It can be really kind of meditative and relaxing. I can just sit and noodle away. And it would just be another way. Learning the piano, I feel like I would have to be a bit more engaged and present all the time while I'm doing it. I don't know if that.
I mean, I can't wait to experience that. But what I'm reading from this is that there are many different contexts where you experience music, right? Which is
basically,
and that would be like getting more in touch with the music that currently you're listening to, but it's not directly linked to the music that you create.
No, it's not. It's another string to the bow or whatever, you know.
The kind of meditative practice.
Yeah,
in a way.
I think so. Yeah.
Contemplative, perhaps, is the
contemplative.
Word, right? I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Apart from Roberto, are there like particular influential figures for you in your like musical development, or any kind of influence? I know you're a big fan of Bob Dylan. Right?
Yeah,
that he's been
massive Dylan. I mean, God, I spent 5 years, I would say, basically only learning and singing Bob Dylan songs. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of hard with influences. I mean, everything, everyone, and everything.
Now, because, you know, one aspect which is very interesting for me is this, I haven't yet found like kind of corny way to describe it, like, you know, multidimensionality, right? That, you know, there's all these influences, right? Because perhaps, you know, when you were starting, you were not expecting to get into Beethoven.
Into what?
Beethoven.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely not.
But at this stage, right, that's the complete landscape of who you are musically. And so do you feel like that, you know, with the time passing, like more of these kind of puzzle pieces are being added, and that they create definitely a more complex sort of picture of who you are?
Definitely. Like, I was very in my sort of early teens, I was, as I said, I was all about Dylan, and then all about the 60s, and then all about the 50s and 60s, and then all about the 70s as well. And it's just because slowly, gradually, you just start adding things. I'm quite slow to kind of, on the uptake on stuff. You know, I'm quite slow to add things, I think, but they just come when they're ready, when I need them. I don't know.
Basically, one point that I wanted to touch on is the like savoring time. So, you know, I know you've known you for quite a few years, probably. Must be the first year that I landed here in London. So, you know, solid 6 years. And, you know, my immediate perception was that, you know, you're not in a rush. It's like you're really enjoying the moment, and that you're very present.
Really, that's interesting. Yeah.
Would you agree at this point in time?
I mean, I guess so. It's hard to say. I mean, I'm just doing... Yeah, I think my just natural pace is just quite slow. In terms of, like, as I was saying, new kind of music coming in, becoming open to new music, I'm quite slow on that uptake. Suddenly then things just come in and you're like, wow, there's this whole world. Like with classical music recently, had it with disco a few years ago, which is like such an obvious one, but I was like, never really got it. And then suddenly it's like, wow, this whole world opens up. And then that's led me slowly into like a bit more electronic music and stuff. But also I think with relationships, I'm quite slow to build intimacy and trust with people. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. Like, I'm definitely not always, very often not very present. But you try.
Have you ever asked yourself where this might be coming from, or, you know, are you interested in, like, you know, investigating
the slowness,
this kind of side of you, or it just, you know?
I think my dad is like, I always used to put it down to, I don't know if this really makes sense, but my dad is now, what is he, 86? So he was 57 when I was born. Basically, I'm saying I've always had quite an old dad. So my like male role model was this kind of, I think my like mannerisms I kind of got from him a bit, lots of noises. You know, since I was really young, I'll be, when I get up and like just kind of want to sit and read the crosswords and stuff. That was kind of, I don't know if there's any truth in that, but yeah, it might be worth exploring. I haven't really explored it, basically.
So to make it a clearer point, that I think that rather than like being slow, well, it's like my way of reading you is that, you know, you go at the right pace rather than, you know, getting overly, say, influenced by the flow of information, which you know, is
well, stubborn.
Like, you know, online, right? Flow of information, which is absolutely, you know, bottomless. And, goes in and accelerated speed, right?
I think I had that intuition quite early on as well. Luckily, I remember begging to get a PlayStation because all my friends had one. And I think I eventually got one, and then within 6 months I'd got rid of it because I just immediately was like, no, this is bad. I'm spending too much time on this. This is bad, from quite young. So I've always had a sense of like the importance of being contemplative, I suppose. Not to say that I think I am particularly, like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure where it comes from. I think probably like my dad. You know, you should be writing. It's really good for you to write, think about stuff.
Well, it's just how it is, right? And it will remain a mystery.
Yeah.
Okay, so since you mentioned your dad, I mean, I'd like to touch on the subject of family, because it's like, it seems that with all the musical weirdness, you were encouraged, right, to do your thing.
Totally. I should actually. Speaking of big influences on music, my uncle for sure, absolutely huge. Just so encouraging. Bought me my first tape recorder and taught me how to record onto 4-track tape. I think when I was really young, I think before I'd even started playing guitar even, he'd bought me that. And always just so encouraging.
Actually, do you have any musicians in the family, I guess?
Well, my uncle. I think that my dad played the lute, but he has not really since I've been around. There are lots of music lovers, all kind of big. Music in the home was like, I don't remember it ever being at home and there's not music playing now still.
And did it have direct impact on your taste?
Definitely, definitely. I think to a point almost too much. It was Ray Charles, Elvis, and Bob Dylan. That was the staple kind of diet in the household. And Hank Williams. Ben, my uncle, loves Hank Williams. That was more from him than my parents, I think.
So that's the foundation for your vinyl collection.
Yeah, for sure.
Quite vintage flavor.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Family.
So maybe to make a clearer point, because for me, probably the bottom line was when I heard from my dad that he has absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but he can see my commitment and that I'm passionate about, and it's a noble thing. So he's encouraging that. So there was on one hand kind of disappointment that all the creative artistic endeavors were that was impossible to communicate on that plane, but it was fine to be myself. And so I'm kind of guessing that it must have been similar for you.
I guess so. Do you know what? It's something I've actually kind of struggled with a bit in life, just because almost I felt I don't think this is necessarily true of them, but I've almost felt there to be some kind of basically expectation to be musical and bohemian, and it's kind of basically I'm called Rudy Blu. It's what Rudy Blu Melon. It's you're kind of the dad. I remember always saying it's what else are you going to do with that name? It's apart from be a musician. And so it's.
Do you think that it was real, or maybe it was some sort of projection that kind of you were trying to read between the lines? What was that?
Do you know what? I'm still unsure. I think basically I'm really lucky. They're really, really nice, and they basically just want me to be happy. But I think that they saw that really early that this makes me happy, and I think it also made them happy. And so it was very encouraging, really, really, really encouraging, really encouraging.
I get it.
But I'm very, very grateful as well, because I'm glad for the encouragement, because it is. I think I struggled for a bit when I was younger, trying to work out is this actually me? Is this actually my thing, or is this just their thing that they've decided that I really like? And am I just doing this to please them? What am I doing this for? But I have now realised that I just love it, and it's really expressive and cathartic and all sorts of things, and it's just what I like to spend my time doing. And so now I'm in quite a good place with it.
Well, I can tell. I can tell. I think that with the discussions on programming, influence of the circumstances we grew up with, in our influence of the culture, society, that you cannot eliminate all of it, right? But there are some influences that you may simply enjoy, and it's still sort of external, right? It didn't come from within, but it resonates.
Yeah.
At least, right? That it doesn't feel alien, and perhaps in a different life, you'd be playing different music, different instrument, but it still would be
right. What do you think? What about for you? What do you think in terms of like where has it come from for you? Your desire to like be working in a kind of doing what you're doing. Where has that come from? Do you think?
Well, I mean, I'd like to say that it's like innate curiosity. Well, I would definitely tie it with what you were saying. Just the contemplative nature.
Yeah.
That that if you have the like in you this thing that you stare at something and it gets more interesting the more you stare at it, then it naturally leads somewhere, right? In many ways, like this podcast is all about trying to find greater depth, second bottom, because it's like I don't know for sure, but I think that there is something further, beyond what I've experienced so far, and having these, what I'd like to say, honest and deep conversations. But perhaps I was actually missing on the component of this being bidirectional.
Right.
That I've been receiving a lot, and in the editing you kind of get the experience of spending extended amount of time with the same person, and you feel like you know them really well, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they know you equally well. It's a spiritual experience, right? It's like a mirror, right? So I think that right now, I'm kind of looking for similarities, right? Because there are multiple things that I cannot relate to, or maybe I'm not even able to notice in you, right? Or things that might be important. But then there's always something that you can find, and if you try to develop the ability to shift the focus from one thing that you maybe might be fixated, because obviously it's like music is such a my first love. I mean, actually I guess visual arts came first, but once the music came to my life, it's been always there, and I always think that it's one like stable thing I could always fall back on, right? No matter like good things happening, bad things happening, but it's always there for you. So it's been incredible relationship, really, right? And it's also gaining sort of it's expanding, taking new shapes and forms. I have no idea how we got to this point.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about one thing you just said. So basically, it's relational, right? What you're talking about? It's about
it's continuous, like back and forth, sort of thing. And and I think that specifically, like for me right now, it's where I am is that this experiment, right? I mean, I'm openly labeling it experiment, and I hope that I will manage to make every conversation different, like in the way that it's conducted, and also in the terms of the content. But it's my attempt to really unify these different perspectives and different aspects of myself, I guess. And I think it's always been, with any kind of creative work, that it's you try to understand something ultimately about yourself, right, and your place in the world. And maybe with music it's more direct. So I think this would be a good place to tie it to, the performance, right, and that it is an interaction with the audience, with people. And I've seen that you have a very faithful group of fans. And the last gig, like people were raving.
Yeah. The last gig was really good. The performance, like what's the question exactly? Or is there a question?
So we were talking now about what music means to you, how you experience it, and now. Let's talk about the performative side and how you share it with others, and what do you see that people are getting from your shows?
Yeah, right. God, it's a thing that's like forever developing, and it's fluid. you want people to enjoy it. I mean, basically, simply put, you kind of want people to have a good time. And like, there's something, I know what I get when I watch a really good gig. It's like being in a crowd full of people that is all kind of experiencing the same thing and dancing together and enjoying and singing along is really fun.
Because it's like amplifying the experience, right? Like playing to an empty room is not the same, right? I mean, rehearsals probably
different
for the band. There must be magic, right, of a different kind.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's really different, I think, actually.
You can't deny that. Like the whole PARTCLS band, it's like everyone is having fun.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
That's great. Like seeing that all six of you are really getting along. Understanding the concept, understanding the place.
Yeah, we definitely made a choice with PARTCLS that like we want it to be really fun. Basically, we want people to dance. We want to dance. We want to make music that we want to enjoy playing and that people will enjoy listening to and watching. And it's working so far, It's really fun to play the stuff. It's kind of far out, it's kind of wild and energetic. The performance thing's a funny one because it's just something that I very recently have been like pressing up against. It's just I've been performing for so long now that it's like I remember when I first started, it was like, again, my uncle being so helpful and being like, you should try and like look up a bit more and then try and like relax a bit. And it's like, try and seem confident, because if you seem confident, you put the audience at ease and everyone has a better time. And so you slowly build up this like persona, essentially. And it is real. It's not that it's like a complete, it's not like phony. I'm there, but it's kind of like there's a character, like an onstage character that I suppose you start to channel or something, essentially.
I mean, I get it perfectly, right? I mean, in many ways, so obviously, like in my professional life, I show up differently than at home with my partner, right? And that's why I always loved, interviews with musicians where you could actually, see who's the person, like behind this music, and then you kind of get a better understanding of where the music is coming from, and I think it also helps understand, what's really that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
And who are your favorite performers? So maybe. I mean, I don't know if you distinguish, but between the music you love and the really great live bands, live artists, and what do you think makes for a really fulfilling experience of live music for you?
You want to believe like that the person is really, really involved in what they're doing. Definitely. For me personally, when I'm watching stuff and I can see that someone's, I guess, channeling something. I don't know, there's like some people you watch and it's just, they have this kind of captivating energy and they're so involved. I'm trying to think of an example of people I've seen recently who are like that. What makes a really good performer? I don't know, it's hard to say. I don't know.
You just feel it, right?
You just feel it, I think.
But really interesting point is about the channeling. I mean the book that's right here, Rick Rubin. So, I mean, I may be stretching, but I think that more or less the point he was making there is that with all the creativity. I mean he works with musicians predominantly, but specifically where you want to get is that where you're sort of transmitting something that it's coming through you rather than you're like making this up on the spot.
That's it. That's. I totally agree with that. There's something you just watch certain bands, musicians, whatever you watch. I find, and you can just tell that there's something else going on there. I don't really know how to quantify that, but it's also clear and kind of disappointing when people don't have it. I suppose there are just people who are really, really good performers, and that's great as well, and they know how to make people have a good time.
I guess it's you could say that it's a separate skill, right? That
I think it kind of is
built on top. Like there are musicians who are, where the music is exquisite, but perhaps performance is not like their forte.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it really depends on the artist, I guess.
It really depends exactly on the artist and on the music.
But definitely in case of PARTCLS like that, there is the chemistry on stage.
Yeah.
And it's like it's never you on your own, right? It's not like the band is low and you have to push it, or that instead it's like the band has to push you. I
think it's kind of similar to what I was saying earlier about there's certain pieces of music where I listen to it and I can't imagine the person playing it not being fully there. I think we kind of made a kind of our show, our music is quite full on, so you kind of have to be there. You can't really just kind of drift your way through it. You kind of have to be there, involved. It's quite like energetic, or it doesn't work really if you're not fully there. So that might be part of it. I don't know. Maybe that's true of all music. I really don't know the answers.
And rewinding back to what you said about this sort of inner conflict, where you started recognizing that the performer in you. Let's try to pick up back on that thread. Where
I think I think I've noticed that it's kind of seeps out into the rest of life, and it's maybe taken on a bit too much of a kind of prominent role in my like consciousness, to the point that the other side that isn't the performer is I have some like sense that it's not like really worthy or something.
I mean, I was assuming that it's something of that, so that basically performers get so much attention and appreciation that you were that that's exclusively what's being appreciated.
Exactly. I think it's probably quite common.
Yeah.
Boring.
And this like interesting, because for me it's like exactly the opposite. My desire to find myself on the opposite side of the camera came from simply recognizing that it's like I'm listening to all these stories that people are telling me, and it's like a lot of the filming that I do is with in general people who are uncomfortable with being on the camera, or who may be like don't even want to be, right? Because it's like emerging artists, like they just started putting themselves out there, and it's a big pressure, right? Because you want to come up well, and
you really want to come off well, fucking well, yeah.
My tricks to Asian too were that if they were feeling blocked, is that I would just tell my stories, and then I would try to understand where that they come from, and pick something relevant. I just started appreciating more like the wealth of my experience. Once I started recognizing that, and that in the end it's like I'm telling my story through their words. So it's like it led me to understand that I want to tell my story. But obviously it's like it's been absolutely beautiful ride, beautiful experience, and I've learned so much. And also seeing that, even a person who's really awkward in front of the camera, and that's deeply my case, can be honest, and it makes for really beautiful interview or conversation.
Yeah.
But you're on the other side, so so it's.
I just had this it was my birthday a couple of weeks ago. And I had like a really strong reaction to my birthday in a way that I haven't, quite a common reaction, I think, that you hear people say, but one that I haven't had before this strongly, which was just a fucking aversion to like receiving any kind of, my mum's been like trying to make a fuss, what do you want to do? And I just didn't want to go there at all. And then I was in the bath, I had a bath, and my friend sent me this piece of classical music, this Mozart thing. And I had this very like well, deep bath in both senses of the word. And I was just lying and allowing, the music was just moving me in this really, I could feel like, suddenly the horns came in, it sounded like butterflies in your stomach, and I just could feel. And it was really, and it was amazing. And I kept having these like, what to me were these profound thoughts, you know, and I was lying there, wow. And I'd kind of go off and I go, no, back to the music, but just allowing the music. It was very meditative, you know, back to the music, just allowing myself to be moved and just, and then really sad, and I could feel it in my heart. And then these profound thoughts. And I kept going back to the music, and I eventually realized that I was having these thoughts, and then every second thought, after the thought, was me saying that thought to someone, or like me up on a podium, kind of saying this very profound thing, and just people being, wow, that is brilliant, what a brilliant thought, what a marvelous, how clever you are. And it was this thing of like, just really, is that part of the performer, like the craving attention thing of really wanting to be seen?
Well, yeah, it's like a note to self that you found there's something which is important for you personally. So I think that the impulse is healthy. It's just understanding that, you know, that's basically something, you know, piece of advice that you need to take to your heart.
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
And what do you think could be the path, the outlet, the way to connect with this other kind of quieter side of you?
I sort of more and more have a sense that like the work or whatever kind of takes care of itself if you just if you're aware of it. You can kind of vaguely guide it with intention. But I think, like we said before we started filming, you were talking about how, like, say last year specifically, you said was all about kind of preparation. And then a kind of explosion of creativity, or what, like you said, you've been having, doesn't come out of nowhere. I think that so much of that stuff is subconscious. And it's something that John O'Donoghue, that podcast I sent you, he talks about thresholds. And he says there's so much work going on underneath in the subconscious that means that when you come to a threshold, you're able to cross it and move into a new space, into a new direction. And so I'm wary of like trying to do too much, basically, because I think that is feeding that person, the ego, who wants to be in control. So I'm kind of just trusting that I've been kind of being aware of it is enough, noticing it and being aware of it, and things just slowly start to fall into place from there, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Right? Cultivating awareness and just observing.
Yeah, it's just exactly, totally.
And, you know, there's no need to panic.
Yeah.
Most importantly. And let's talk a bit about writing. So I know that you are now taking a commitment to it, but, you know, for me it has relevance and importance because it's been now just a bit over 2 years that, you know, I'm journaling daily, and it's been extremely transformative. But equally because, you know, I'm writing in my notebook that you know, is kept secret, and I'm not sharing any of that. I have no way of really verifying how how potentially valuable or true that can be.
Yeah.
So the way I've been using writing so far is to get me into a certain mind space where I feel really in the flow, really creative. Tell me a bit about how you know, what's your relationship with writing, and what's to expect from Rudy Blu.
Well, my dad drummed into me quite early on, like, you really should write every day, it's quite important. And I don't write every day. I aim to, but I don't. I'm not as disciplined as you in probably any area. I don't know.
I'm not so sure.
I don't know. But it definitely, I know I have periods, since I've been, this for probably 15, 16 years, I've been writing most days. But I definitely, in that, I've had lots of periods of months at a time where I haven't been writing. And I can't pinpoint it exactly, but it's a regular pattern, in fact, that I start like spiraling a little bit when I stop writing. And if I were to go back, I actually haven't ever read any of them, but I just remember writing pretty much the same sentence many, many times, which is, oh yeah, I need to write every day. Like, because when I stop, I kind of lose clarity and lose, like you're talking about. It's like, I've got to remember just to write. And then you kind of, I get to a thing where I spend however long I am doing it, then I'm in a really good place. And so then I stop. But there's definitely, it's really, really valuable thing to do, I think. Insofar as this commitment, I've just started a creative writing course, as you know,
exactly.
degree, which was weird. It's not something I ever thought I would do, particularly I wanted to do, but it was a very impulsive decision. Literally sort of 10 days before the degree started, I decided to do it.
Yeah, that when you first mentioned it, I thought that you're talking about some block in terms of songwriting, and that
right,
it's strictly about writing music, but you were talking about writing fiction.
Yeah, well, I'm not totally sure yet. Maybe not fiction. I don't know. I'll speak to me again in 3 years. I'll let you know.
Absolutely.
But I do think I want to write something about my granddad. You know, I have told you this.
Who was a writer?
Who was a writer, yeah, who died a few years ago, and who I just really do really regret not having got to know him better. Because I had this real sense, in the period since he died, the more I've kind of thought about him and spoken to people about him, just this really, and read his writing, this sense of someone who was really quite similar to me, maybe in some ways, in quite a lot of ways, and who could have been a real kind of confidant and really good friend that I missed out on. And it just, the time wasn't right. I was too young, he was too old, whatever it was. But this project, this thing I'm doing now, I think I want to write something about him, but it's kind of about me wanting to get to know him as well. So I'm not totally sure what, but you know, just after I'd applied to the course, I now think that he was actually up there kind of pulling the strings and he's been guiding me a little bit. Because I had some quite, contact from him. Particularly, I was just feeling him very strongly at one moment, and I was lying in bed, kind of full body vibrating, just feeling his presence there. It was sort of overwhelming. And I went to grab his book off the shelf, his autobiography that I've read before, and I just thought maybe I should read this again, there's something going on. And I opened it up on the first page and found an inscription that I'd never seen before that said, "To my grandson Rudy, who will one day be very interested in who is in this book." And he'd underlined interested and drawn a line to his own name. Anyway, I don't know, we'll see. I'm excited though. I'm off to interview lots of various members of his family soon, going on Friday to speak to someone. And
really?
Yeah, his wife, who I didn't really know.
So that's a part of family you were not.
I know her,
directly.
but she, same as my granddad. It was like I just didn't care. Basically, it pained me to say. I kind of went there. I loved him. He was my granddad, you know. But especially in my teens, I basically went and was polite for the weekend, and I couldn't really imagine him outside of his cottage in Norfolk, an old, kind of tired, sweet, great, but he was a really, really interesting guy. And he's the kind of person that anytime I speak to someone about him, they get a twinkle in their eye and they're really excited to speak about him. And she was just this kind of quiet, she kind of kept herself to herself. She was an artist, really brilliant artist. Anyway, I'm going to go and speak to her and stay with her in Suffolk this weekend.
I don't know. I think it's fascinating project. And do you think that this kind of tracing back your roots is an experiment also in getting to know yourself better,
Definitely.
or is it like
definitely? I have a really strong sense that there's something that I need to learn by doing all of this. And I don't know what the question is yet, but I've got a sense that there are answers in this project. So,
and is it something that ever passed through your mind?
To write?
Doing that kind of, investigation?
No. No, not that I can think of. Not seriously, anyway.
So it had to be framed in this specific context to actually get you hooked on it and motivated to.
Yeah, I think so.
On that.
Yeah.
So you don't know what to expect. You just going for it, and that is going to take you at some point to the States.
Yeah, because there's a library that bought his entire archive of writings before he died. And that includes daily journal entries from 1952 to 2011.
That's a lot of reading for you.
It's a lot of reading, and his handwriting's pretty hard to read. And then a whole box called Love Letters, letters to my mum, a whole box of letters to my mum, a whole box of letters to my uncle. Quite fun, quite juicy.
Well, fantastic. I mean, I think that this is a good note to close the conversation with, sort of opening to the new adventure. Do you feel like crediting your granddad properly? Like, I guess his books can be found out there.
Yeah,
such as
Jonathan Gathorne Hardy. He wasn't like a very particularly successful. Like, he made a living, but he wrote really good biographies. Again, they're very niche. One about this guy called Kinsey, which I'm reading at the moment. I think it's really good. Who was basically really key in kind of reforming ideas about sex in the 30s and 40s. He was very, very liberal. And he did all these studies. He collected all of these personal histories, he called them. He went around America and interviewed like tens and tens of thousands of people, and got their very detailed sexual histories. And then he wrote a book about this guy, Gerald Brennan, who was another writer, which is really good as well. And basically, I think his memoir, called Half an Arch, I think is the best thing that he wrote. So if anyone's interested, I don't know if anyone will be, but I think it's a great read. It's called Half an Arch.
Okay, so for any of your writing, probably we'll need to wait a little bit. But what about PARTCLS? So let's close with updates from the band. What's coming up?
So EP in the summer, hopefully, working on it now. 5-track EP, probably another single before in the spring, and then 5-track EP in the summer. We're doing planning. Basically, we've booked the show as the release, so now we've got to really because I want to print vinyl and stuff. So it's really got to be done by kind of about a month's time from now. So it's a lot of work, a lot to do, but it's all good stuff. That's it, really. There'll be more London shows. That's the big one. Will be in June, on the 21st of June. Yeah, keep plugging away.
That's exactly what we wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rudy, thank you. Thanks, you for taking part.
My pleasure.
That was Rudy Blu on Empirical Animal Podcast Experiment. If you want to check out more from his band PARTCLS, the links are down below. New episodes will drop every 2 weeks, and your comments are always welcome. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.